Good morning, or indeed good afternoon, everybody, on this Tuesday. Welcome to Authors Up Close at Palling Brothers. First of all, I need to acknowledge and extend my appreciation to the people of the Tongarong country and Wurundjeri country, which is where we're recording today. We pay our respects to the leaders and elders past, present and emerging, because they hold the memories and the traditions, the cultures and the hopes of all of the people, of the Indigenous people of this country. Today we have an artist. We've got a visual artist. Her name is Debra Luccio. She's an award-winning artist whose work is represented in collections nationally and internationally, including the New York Public Library and the State Library of Victoria. She's held 21, possibly 22 solo exhibitions, a lot of solo exhibitions, including a major solo exhibition at the Australian Consulate General in New York City. She's been involved in more than 70 group, curated and award shows. She was awarded the CPM National Print Award in 2009, and she's also been shortlisted for many other awards, including the 2012 Shirley Hannon National Portrait Prize, the Hutchins Award and the Swan Hill Print and Drawing Award. She's guest lectured throughout Australia and in the USA, including at the National Gallery of Victoria and the Art Students League of New York. Debra Luccio has attended rehearsals and created artworks of dance companies, including the New York City Ballet and the Tiffany Mills Company in New York City. And since 2011, she has been drawing in classes and rehearsals and creating artwork of the Australian Ballet. And the reason that we really wanted to have Debra to come and talk to us today is because one of the ballets that she created quite a lot of work for is The Sleeping Beauty, which David McAllister choreographed in 2006, was it, Deb? 2007. I wrote it down somewhere. Anyway, it was a couple of years ago, and Debra drew and made beautiful print works based on The Sleeping Beauty. And if you're quick, I think there's about 4 or 5 more days that you can watch it, because it's being live streamed at the moment, which is pretty amazing. So welcome, Debra.
Thank you.
So this is the new normal, of course. We were planning to have you to come up to Palling Bros Brewery and sit down amidst the people having their afternoon brews and have a bit of a chat, but instead we're doing it via Zoom, and we're going to share it out on Creatives Up Close and Insta and a few other places, so people will be able to hear you even if we can't have you in person. Okay, I suppose I should ask you a question. That'd be a good idea.
Yeah. And I have been up to Palling Brothers, and it's a shame that we can't be sitting there. It's such a lovely place to be, isn't it?
It's so nice. It's Peter and Colleen have created this great playground, and I'm just hoping that at some point we'll actually be able to have that back again. But in the meantime, let's keep talking about creativity and all that kind of stuff. Well, maybe we should start with The Sleeping Beauty. Have you watched it since it's been back on in film?
Yeah, I have. And we were actually 10 years a bit early. I think that was because it was my first exhibition in 2006. So it was 2015 that David started it, and I have watched it online. It's such a wonderful thing that the Australian Ballet are doing, so generous that they've developed this digital season because they had to cancel their performance season. They've actually developed the digital season, so it's very generous of them, and it's just wonderful to have watched it. It brought back so many memories, and to see the whole performance on screen, to watch them performing up close and personal, and to see the stage production, it is stunning. It's so sumptuous and beautiful. It was wonderful to be able to watch it in my own home and to be able to see it again. It was just wonderful.
Because when you're making artworks of a particular ballet, you go and sit in the rehearsal rooms, don't you? Do you want to talk a bit about what you do, how you do that?
Yeah, so I'm incredibly fortunate, very privileged. So I able to go in for a couple of weeks, so I can go in a bit earlier and see the way that they really develop and create their production as they work through, and as well for this particular one, for instance, as David was developing the choreography with the dancers. So I go in for a couple of weeks, and sometimes I might go in a little bit earlier and then return back as they're coming close to performing. So I went in for a bit and then returned, and so I was in for a couple of weeks right near the end as well, and did get to see the dress rehearsal. So the idea is that I actually go in and I'm quite really immersed in it myself too. So I go in for those couple of weeks and I'm in there every day, and they're very long days. I go in from morning till night, and I'm quite often in there from their class right through until the end of the day. So right from the morning when they're practicing, they're on their bar and they're warming up with their exercises, I'm in there with my sketchbook. So I have my sketchbook and I begin with drawing. So I draw, and that's a bit of a warm up for me. So I sit and I sketch and I draw, and I just keep drawing and drawing. And I didn't even realize myself that I barely even look at the page. So it's really about just the process of drawing. And it was a lady that was visiting, that was a guest herself, because not many people are able to watch, but she was one of the guests that was there able to watch. And at the end of the class, she said to me, she said, "You don't even look at your paper." That made me realise that. But then as the day goes on, I will continue to draw, but I also will pick up my camera then and take some reference shots during the day. So that's how I'm able to get then more detail in my artwork later. And I have the privilege of watching the choreographer and the dancers developing the performance and working through any changes and alterations, and also developing the relationship between the leads, and so the relationship between the dancers themselves, and working out how they're going to actually perform something together, and where the weight of things come, and how together as a couple they will accomplish something and what have you, because it's a very complex thing, this ballet, this dance, and to watch it progress, it's, for me, it's such an incredible thing that I'm there watching it live, because I get to really feel all the weight and movement that happens throughout the journey. So for me, it becomes such a part of my experience for me to then bring back to the studio to be able to put into my artwork. So everything that I feel, the emotion, the weight, the change of movement, or anything that is conveyed within the studio that I feel that's happening there, it's an experience that I can bring back to the studio artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally sitting at their feet. Beautifully.
I think I've got a picture somewhere, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to share it. This is where, oh yes, the tech. Yes, of course. Yes, maybe. No, I think I don't think I'll risk it. I think I'll just let that be. Need a technician in the background, so I'll put that screen up anyway. Which actually kind of leads me to my next question, which is about taking risks. I often, when you watch a ballet, even people who've never seen a whole ballet, but they might have seen a little film clip, those amazing leaps and the lifts and all of that, there's got to be quite a lot of risk taking in that to make that happen, and the risk of injuring yourself, or at least of looking foolish if it doesn't come off, has got to be fairly high. Do you I'm not expecting you to tell tales of the Australian Ballet, but How do you feel about taking risks, and do you think that when you're doing stuff that there's an element of risk taking as well?
Oh, for myself, so
Or and maybe what you've seen or
watching, they're phenomenal. I mean, they take the time, and they have to trust themselves, or they have to trust themselves for themselves, but they have to trust each other. And what I've witnessed over the years is just this incredible relationship that they have between them. I'm just in absolute awe of these phenomenal people. So I mean, I rave about these people because they really are incredible people. And then when people meet, they say, well, now I know why you're raving so much. I thought you were carrying on, but they truly are just such lovely, warm, generous people, because they are. And to watch people deal with what they do and go through what they do, I think you can only do that if you have such a great inner strength and passion for what you're doing, and also that trust, and the culture of such a strong family unit. And they have that in spades. It's just incredible to do what they do. And after childbirth and having children, these women come back, and their artistry is phenomenal. So I have so much respect for them. As an artist, myself personally, as a visual artist, I think that when we exhibit, when we actually put our artwork out there, it can be a little nerve-wracking. And doing things like this when we're speaking out loud I think we all find speaking out loud a little nerve-wracking. But I think it's incredibly important for all of us to do what is, you know, to put ourselves out there and to have a bit of courage. And when I do my artwork, I find that the majority of time when I do my artwork, it's not just about doing it because it's enjoyable, even though I find doing my artwork incredibly rewarding and enjoyable. I do tend to challenge myself, and I do tend to want to challenge myself, and I can't help it. The other day I did paint a pear. A pear, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, I have to say. But I did find that because of these particular circumstances that we all find ourselves in now, that even a bit emotional, but even doing the pear was, even that was um, even that was a little bit of a courage thing. It was like, come on, you can do this pear. It's a pear. It's quite funny how even the smallest thing can be a challenge. And I think it's okay to accept that something is a challenge, and to not chastise ourselves, and to, give yourself a bit of a pat on the back. And if something is a massive, big challenge, it's also okay to accept that, and to give yourself a bigger pat on the back.
Nice. And you're working at the moment because you're a printmaker, so you usually work with a press that squishes everything beautifully, evenly and uniformly, and usually you work with an assistant for the big pieces too, don't you?
Well, I actually do them all on my own. I do. Naughty like that. I do even the big pieces on my own. So I do the additioned pieces, the dry points and etchings. I've had an assistant for those a couple of times, which has been absolutely lovely, and I've been very grateful for the help with those. But I have to admit that for my monotypes, whether they've been large or small, I have done all of those on my own.
So yeah. They are mono types.
Mono, yes. Yeah, so of late, so I did experiment with my pear as a monotype, and literally hand pressed that. And I guess that was part of the challenge. So this was my tool, if I can hold it up, if you can see that. So it's a flat burnisher. So
That's a
that
far cry from the monster press that I've seen.
yes. So that's yeah. So I think that I may have to try to use both of my arms equally so that I have two big biceps instead of just one by the end of this isolation period, because it's incredibly physical to hand press. So I'll be working on that, and I've got a funny feeling that I'll be building up my upper body strength somehow.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, well, they are saying you got to keep fit. It's all part
yeah,
of the creative process.
can be one way. And I've pulled out my canvases, so we'll be and I've had a great time preparing my paints too, laying them all out in a new so and I have realized that I may have a little issue with paintbrushes because I've pulled them out, and I may have a couple more than what I realized. So I do have quite a few paintbrushes. I think that I think I like my brushes. So I've got out the canvases, and I'm looking forward to getting back into some painting as well over this time.
Nice. Don't worry too much about the excess of paintbrushes. I've got a writer friend who is a bit obsessed with fountain pens, and I happen to know there are far too many musical instruments in this house. So,
And I guess brushes are just a bit smaller than musical instruments. So.
for sure. Um, when the last time that we caught up, we have caught up in Melbourne before at one of your exhibitions, and I was fortunate enough to speak with you and Kevin Jackson and Alice Top, a choreographer and a dancer. And I remember them talking about how delighted they were at seeing themselves portrayed in your art. Um, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Look, I'm very, very fortunate that the dancers um, appreciate the artwork. So I am lucky that they respond so well. Um, so they and ballet supports me in my art. So I'm not commissioned by them, but I have the freedom to be able to go in and create my artwork and express myself as I would like to. So I run my artwork past them and credit the dancers as best I can. And they check that I've credited the dancers correctly with the choreographers and what have you. But they only send back lovely comments on the artwork. There's no critiquing or criticizing of the artwork. And the dancers are just absolutely beautiful in their comments about it. Because I have to admit, I do get nervous um, about whether they will are they okay in the way that I've captured them or what have you, because I'm not trained at all in dance. I just respond to what they're giving to me. So if I like, if I um, have responded emotionally to some performance, some aspect of the performance, or if something's really struck me, then I try to capture that in my artwork. So and to so far, so far so good. So far, their response has just been absolutely delightful. I'm incredibly lucky, very grateful. Yeah.
Lovely. I think it must be really lovely as a dancer to know that you've been in some piece that you've been involved in, and to know that you when you go to the exhibition, there's a chance that you might be on the wall. I just think that must be quite extraordinary. Yeah, because you are, because what they make is ephemeral. They rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. It's on the stage, and then occasionally they're lucky enough to have recorded it the way that the Australian Ballet did David McAllister's The Sleeping Beauty, but often it's just gone and there's no more there's no more ballet. It's all disappeared except for maybe the odd photo and costume. So it's really rather special what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed you've got some pieces in the background there, some of your work, and you've got some up on the wall too. Is that yours?
Oh, yeah. So behind me, up on the wall itself, that's actually my nephew. Will I take the phone over? Did you want to have a look at?
Yeah. Let's have a look at your nephew's pieces.
So, well, they're not they're actually photos of my nephews as children.
Ah.
So if you is that right to do that?
Yes. Yep.
So I'm incredibly lucky to be. So my mum has generously donated. So I should bring these over. I might pop you back and then I'll just bring these over. So while we're in isolation, my mum has very generously donated her office to me for my studio.
So she's a patron of the arts.
So yes.
Nice work, Mum. Mums everywhere, I think, are doing a little bit more just at the moment. But hello to the nephews. Big shout out to the nephews.
Shout out to Ollie and Toby. So these are a couple of ghosts that happen to be here.
Okay, so do you want to tell us about ghosts?
So, yes, I've actually got a couple of images from the Australian Ballet Sleeping Beauty on an invite too, if that helps. And I've got a painting here. So, with the monotype itself, shall I go through the process of the monotype, which the ghost?
Yeah.
Help at this point. I happen to have a piece of copper here. So with the monotype, what I actually do with a monotype, it's basically a painting. So I basically create a painting on a piece of copper that when I've finished, it's then actually peeled off. So it's transferred onto a piece of paper and it comes off. So this is what's called a ghost, but it's a one-off piece. It's a monotype, and it's on a piece of board here. It's actually just been foam cord here, and the ghost is what's then the second print, which is what the ink that's left underneath. So with the monotype itself, what it is, it's this lovely, rich, sticky etching ink. So I've got my palette here of some of the etching ink, which is really rich and sticky as it stays wet for quite a while on the palette here. And I have a roller, and I actually pick up some of the etching ink. So on the one plate, I might have quite a few colours that I just roll the different colours on that I would like, all on the one sheet. And then with a cloth on my hand over my finger, I then actually wipe back. So I wipe back the actual image that I want. So for this guy, for instance, I actually wiped back. So it truly is like finger painting for adults as a man. So that's quote. Quite literally will actually use my finger to wipe around and develop the figure. And if I've rubbed off too much, I'll tap into the background and tap back on to create the tone back into the area. And then with a brush, I can actually then pop back in some detail onto the plate. So this is all done on the copper sheet. And the reason why I use copper is because it's got a lovely flesh colour. So it slips. So the flesh makes me feel like it's nice and warm. I really like the colour to work on. The fact that it's slippery and movable means that I can actually keep moving the image around until I'm happy with it. and I'm using etching ink, which is really rich and strong and bright. So rather than just using, of all the different mediums that we have, I can't get this same strength that I with any other medium than what I can get with the etching ink. And also this quality of being able to move and change and create an image until I'm happy with it. There is a challenge in that it must be done in the day because otherwise it dries. But once it's finished, then you have a piece of paper. So we wet the paper so that it will then actually press down nicely. So you wet and then blot the paper dry. That goes over the top. And then normally it runs through a printing press. And I have one which is at a studio, not here. And you hand roll that through. You have the press, you roll it through, and it's on my website in the YouTube section on my website, which is debraluccio.com, and you can have a look at the press in action on my YouTube site. And that actually rolls through, and that lovely pressure of that will actually press that and transfer the image, and you can peel the paper off. But at the moment, what I'll be doing is hand pressing and then peeling that off. If you're very lucky, there's ink remaining on the plate, and then with a second piece of paper, you can actually put that on. I can't imagine myself being able to get any ghosts at this point from here, because just to be able to get that pressure, I think it's going to be pretty much impossible. I shall give it a shot, but I think it's going to be pretty impossible. The beautiful thing about the ghosts, or the official term is cognate, so that's the official term. The beautiful thing about the cognates, the ghosts, so it's the romantic term is the ghost. If you see here, so this is the cognate as well. Oh, it's a bit hard with the plastic on it, sorry.
That's good. That's good like that.
There are just such lovely fluorescent, really pastel-y colours that are created that, of course, I didn't put there. They're just simply created because of the thinness of the ink and the light of the paper that is coming through. So that then creates its own colour because of the process of the monotype. So textures and colours and things are created because of the process rather than the artist.
Wow. Serendipity.
Yeah, absolute chance, which is lovely.
Nice. We are getting very close to being out of time. I wanted to ask you, because we are in strange times at the moment, and lots of people are finding themselves revisiting former pastimes. Have you been revisiting any yourself?
Well, I shall be painting again, and pressing is something new, and I am doing the black and white. So I think that's probably where I'm at with that. And I'm guessing my mind has been going so many places. I could say yes and spend another hour going through all sorts of things with you. So I should probably leave it there, I would say.
I think lots of people who are watching this are creative in some form, whether they're writers or bakers or sewers and crafters or garden makers. And I was just wondering, are you finding it easier or harder to make art at this time? Because there's a lot of talk at the moment about, well, now's the perfect time to start your novel or get on and make some grand thing. I'm just wondering what your take is on that.
Oh, I have to admit that I have struggled. It has only been the last couple of days. I'll get emotional now. I've got tissues close by. It is literally only the last couple of days that I've been able to make artwork. For anyone else out there, if you've been struggling, believe me, you're not the only one. It is hard. I felt very distressed. I've struggled to focus, and even though my artwork is so very dear to me and helps me so much, I've really struggled to sit down and do it because things have been so very distressing. Mind you, just quite literally sitting in a lovely space has been really good for me. So just quite literally sitting in the space, getting myself organised, having my art materials around me has been really good. But trying to create during this time has been near impossible, even with good friends. Even being incredibly lucky to have family right beside me. I'm in such a fortunate position, I truly am. And even so, I've really struggled. So I really feel for other people that aren't in as good a position as me, because if I've struggled, I really feel for them. And I've also struggled to not feel bad about not creating.
Yes, I think it's been really hard for a lot of people to cut themselves some slack, you know, particularly because, you know, we're so privileged. We have a roof, you know, there's food in the pantry, we have toilet paper, all of that kind of stuff. And so therefore we feel like, well, we ought to make something of this time. And so thank you for being so honest about it, because I think it's easy to maybe just default to, well, you know, it's all art and it's all lovely and it's all beautiful and we're all upbeat and fine and positive all the time. And yeah, sadly, that's not quite how it works often.
The way it's not quite the way, but you know, it's I do look for the little good things, and there are so many around. And being positive is it's funny in that being positive is one thing, but then trying to turn that into the next step. And yeah, I am very lucky to have good friends that also do support me. So thank you, Amanda.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. It's I can assure you it's mutual.
But the nice thing, I think, is that you know, when we're not alone, and so many people, we're so incredibly lucky that so many people are just doing just the right thing, and to see light at the end of the tunnel, and to know that people are, you know, we're staying home, we're all in it together. We're doing things like this. Like, how creative are people being? How wonderful is it to jump on the net and see people with such lovely senses of humour being so creative and doing such lovely things, and to be able to share that. And no matter how you feel and what state you're in, you can find something or someone that will support you in that. Yeah, I feel incredibly lucky.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I've got about a million more questions, so we might have to do this another time and ask some of the other questions. But I did just want to say thank you so much for for coming on, being here. Yeah, I hope we get to do it again sometime. And thank you for being part of our experimental online Creatives Up Close.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me to be a part of it. And if I can just say, for the people that know me and know my artwork, if you haven't, Amanda yet, she's the author of this incredible book, Not Dead Yet. So for those of you who haven't met her, you need to read this book, and you will get to meet her one day. I just need to say
thank you, Debra. That's gorgeous of you. Now, we can find you at debraluccio.com.
Yes.
Yes. And also on Instagram.
Yes, just Debra Luccio. Oh, Debra Luccio artist, I think.
Debra Luccio artist. So go and have a look, because Debra puts up progress work and all kinds of things that she's been doing. And if you go and have a look at her website, because her stuff's just gorgeous, and you can take yourself on a virtual gallery tour right now. And also go and have a look at the Australian Ballet. I think if you just Google Australian Ballet, but we'll put the links in the comments. And Deb's going to share this on Insta, and we're going to share it on Creatives Up Close. Sorry, Deb, what was that?
And Facebook too. And if you've got any questions of me, please feel free to ask.
Lovely, lovely. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks everyone. Have a lovely Tuesday afternoon.